Welcome to my channel. This is Olufemi's channel where we talk about moving from Africa, being raised in the African culture and coming to the Western world and raising kids in the Western culture. Last week we talked about being able to stand up for your kids in support of whatever they're going through. We talked about being bullied, how it can have lasting negative impression as trauma in their lives, and if care is not taken, if it's not dealt with, it can affect them emotionally and it can affect them as far as their self-esteem. This week we'll kind of continue in the trend, but not the trauma trend, not the bullying trend. What I want to talk about is encourage us when we move from Africa to the US. There's a saying that says, when you're in Rome, you act like a Roman. And I did talk about this at the beginning of my of the series, that when I came to the US in Chicago, I realized that I wanted to take some of the things that I didn't like about the American culture and the things that I didn't like about the Nigerian culture and then take the good out of both cultures and blend them together, which was what God helped me to do. I wouldn't say let me give glory where glory is due, to whom glory is due. So when my oldest was younger in kindergarten, I think either kindergarten or maybe she was in preschool, maybe second year preschool, they started phonics. And what I did at that time was I bought the tape. It was a tape at the time, and her and I learned phonics together, because in my mind, if I'm going to help her read and I'm not pronouncing, I'm using British English to pronounce the words for her, it might have a negative connotation when she gets to school, because a lot of, I'm not sure we do that in Nigeria, but here they do it, spelling every week. So depending on how I pronounce it, she may not get it, she may not understand it. So that was what I did. So I want to encourage us to help our kids in that regard. That's our way of supporting them. The other thing that I did too was, and my oldest one, she actually talked about it last week and it made me feel good. The fact that I did volunteer in school when she was younger. I volunteered throughout. All three of them I volunteered in school. When they were younger, her especially, when she was younger, when she started school, I worked part-time. I wanted to be a mom, and I also wanted to work. I didn't want to be a stay-home mom completely. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-home mom. Everybody is different. Whatever you choose to do, we should just do it diligently. So in my own case, I wanted to work as well as stay home. So I found a balance. I worked 30 hours as a pharmacist. So I stayed home. So I worked every other day. I worked 10 hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it worked for me. I was home on Tuesday and I was home on Thursday. And those days I was involved in her preschool program. I would go on field trips with them. I would volunteer to read to the class. I would volunteer to take them to like field trips. So that worked for me. And I think it does help with our esteem. If you look back to how I look back, my dad helped us too. Like when we'd go, every year when we'd go and buy books, my dad was the one that bought us the books, and he would sit there and individually write the names of everybody on their books. And I do remember that was good support for us. My siblings and I talk about that today. So I want to encourage us. Don't just think, oh, this is my child, they're in school, the teacher's going to do everything. No. And the other thing that I did when they were younger as babies, I read to them. The reading was not something that, it just fell in my laps. I remember when I worked there as a new mom, I worked at Walgreens in Des Moines, Iowa, and they would ask me, what did you do last night? And I was like, Americans, they're engaged. They stay busy. And I was like, I'm just going to start reading to my daughter, because I didn't want to lie about it. And little did I know that me reading to her was going to help her. She started reading at like 3.5. And even when she got to kindergarten, the teacher pulled me aside and said, did you read to her as a baby? I'm like, why? She said, because the way she reads, she's just fluent. So that helped her. So I just want to encourage us. Again, the saying that says, when you're in Rome, act like a Roman. Find out what positives you can do, the things that are positive that you can do, you can engage in, that'll help your children so that they can adapt easier to the culture they're in, especially those of us that started raising our kids in Africa and we bring them into the American culture, and also for us that had our kids in the Western world, to raise them to not completely get away from our culture, but then to see again, what do you think will help your children positively, cultural wise, the things that you brought from Africa and the things that you see in the American culture. It's not everything about our culture that at least this is my opinion. We all have different opinions, so there's no need to fight over it. For me, It's not everything in our culture that I like, and it's not everything in the American culture that I like. So I was able to, God help me blend both together. Next week, I'm actually going to talk about one major factor, one major thing that I don't like in our culture. Next week, we'll talk about that. Thank you for coming along this week. Have a good day. God bless you.